All right, so let's dig deeper into Visual Composer and understanding all the tools it has available to us as far as just basic layout options. So again, I'm going to change my layout to VC Basic as we did in our previous versions and update the changes. Then of course I want to select my backend editors because I want to edit in Visual Composer, which is a big, huge time saver. So I'm going to select backend. Now, here's what I want to share with you. If you click this icon right here, this is templates. Now, you can name a template you designed for your client based on the grids, based on the blocks, based on every widget that we put in there from previous lessons or what you've done before. Here's my default templates, okay? And here's my default templates, and I can go and basically pick any of these. Now, we'll talk about templates in more detail later on, but right now I want you to walk before you can run, so I'm simply going to click right here. Okay, so again, this is going to bring up my different types of widgets and elements that I can use, add element, that I can use inside my Visual Composer. But I think it just makes a lot more sense before you get into the little nuances of this to understand how I can select different layouts and how I can make those layouts my own. So in this video, I will share with you how to work with templates, and then in a subsequent video, I will share with you how to create a template from scratch. Understand the difference. If I click here, I'm going to get elements that actually can be part of my template environment, or I can click here and get started with a base template, either default or create my own from scratch. So whatever you name your template, of course, is going to make sense to you next month, next year, etc., etc. So I'm going to click right here under templates, and I'm going to pick my default templates. Now let's take a second to look at these for a second. This is really well done. There's quite a few templates in here. Video description templates for training purposes, maybe. 2-column list, a service template, a square background template. We could have actually used that for our parallax. Team member template, okay, rounded description template, etc., with all the goodies already set up inside there for you. Here's the about section, about with features, about with left gallery, about with tour section. So in this particular case, let's pick accordion news list and let's see what that's about. Subsequent videos will do a call to action, which is also very important if you want to do a landing page for your website. But I can't overemphasize how cool this is to get started with a template. So I'm going to click right here and close the window. Now, of course, that's going to put all the goodies needed, required here. Did my computer just freeze? No, thankfully it did not. Okay, so let's go and update these changes. Now, once again, I want you to focus here because this can look very, very confusing, very overwhelming. But once again, if you understand how it thinks, what it wants from you, what all this stuff means, it's really easy to make changes. Now, once you kind of get up and running and become very, very fluent with this, then what you can actually do, you can go into classic mode and you can start changing your shortcodes. Now you might think, well, that looks like a big handful. But once you understand how because that's all this backend editor is doing is putting in shortcodes. So it's nothing to be overwhelmed about it. The shortcodes are inside of square brackets. So if I go back to classic mode, then I can actually see all the information that I put in here. Okay, now this probably looks like Chinese math to you. But once you get familiar with how it thinks and how it works, it's really simple to make changes. And this is how I do things, by the way. I think it's much simpler to do it this way, but that's going to come with experience. I'm going to go to the backend editor and take it from there. All right, so here we have different layouts now, or I'm sorry, the layout that we just set up. So let's look at this layout inside of our page. Here's section 1, section 2, section 3. I can add a section by clicking down here. And I'm simply going to update that and preview the changes. Now, this is something that if you didn't have access to this would probably be very time consuming. If I click right here, that's going to expand, but if I go down here, boom, it pops up. It pops up. It pops up. If you Familiar with the Think, Learn, Earn website, this is how Mary Beth actually designed those different sections by using different accordion pop-ups. Now, let me close this window for a second. If you want to see the experience without saying edit in Visual Composer and without this black bar on top, once again, I suggest to hold down the Control key, Macintosh, right-click Windows, View Page, and open an incognito window. I'm working with Chrome. If you're working in Firefox or other browsers, they have private windows as well. So this is what you would have right now. Okay? So if I scroll down here to the bottom, I can click and bring this up. Now, here's what I want to share with you. This, in conjunction with the Ultimatum theme framework, is very, very powerful, because notice that this is taking up the full width of your screen. And perhaps you actually don't wish to do that. Maybe you don't want to take up the full. Maybe you have other things in these elements that's working for you. Now, you can do this in Visual Composer, but if you use a combination of two things at once, it's really easy to figure things out. So as an example, I can do a custom layout in Ultimatum, which I will share with you in just 1 second. And then I could basically do the include page. So I can say, okay, I want to put this page off to the left, but maybe I want to put another page off to the right. So let's examine how that would work. So let's go back to Preview Changes. And let's go into that particular theme. Now, for all practical purposes, let's call this Visual Basic full width. So it doesn't have any extra information, no headers, no nothing. We're just going to go ahead and save that. And again, this comes down to working smart. I'm going to go to my back layout, and based on these choices, okay, here's my VC full width. We're going to clone that. And let's just simply call this 2 columns, or anything that makes sense to you. All right, now this is set up exactly to our liking, which means I hid the title and everything else, so I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel, but I do want to insert another row. And the row that we're going to insert, let's do a 66-33% row. So we'll put the main content over here, and we'll put other information over to the right, and I'll share with you how simple that is to do. So I'm going to insert this. So my WordPress default loop, which is where the Visual Basic content that I just shared with you is going to show up, we're going to take and drag this off to the left. I'm going to take this and drag that right there, if it'll let me. Well, it's acting really kind of wacky. Actually, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't mean to drag that, I meant to drag this. And I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to take this and delete this. Well, I guess I'm loopy already from doing too many videos. All right, now over here, we can choose to put a default Ultimatum page or any information we want to put over here. So for the time being, let's just leave this blank. Let's put nothing in there and just save the layout. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's go to Preview Changes again. And now we can edit the page. And the page that we want to do, we want to edit this page so it doesn't bring up the VC Basic full width, but it brings up the VC Basic 2 column. And we're going to update that. Okay, so now when I go to Preview Change, it's not going to take up the full width. I now have other information that I can put over here, which means I can have a whole nother Visual Composer experience. So that is one of the advantages of doing this in combination with the Ultimatum theme, is you can then check and, how do you want to set this up? So let me give you another for instance. Let's view this page again. Okay, so let's go back. We're not going to change this, but I just want to share with you a concept. Let's go back to Edit Layout for a second. And let's say that we want to do a lot of cool things with our Visual Composer and plot it into different places on the page. So perhaps we want to design something around maybe, I don't know, I'll pick this one. And I'm just haphazardly picking this one. I just want you to understand a concept here. All right. So what I can now do, which is really a lot of fun, is I could now make this a series of Ultimatum pages that come up here. So as an example, Ultimatum include page. Okay, So I can make this section be that page, and I can make another section be another page, etc., etc., etc. This is just an idea, conceptual understanding, and an idea of how I can procure this. But the cool thing about working, I can't overemphasize this enough. The cool thing about working with the Ultimatum theme framework, it makes it really simple and child's play to place elements on your page without jumping through hoops, because everything is set up in a grid. And as I will share with you in subsequent videos, you can actually now, for my money, let's say that you're picking this grid, but then you want this grid on top of that grid. Well, then just do it. So a second ago, we picked this layout right here. Let me just close this out for a second. So let's say underneath this, we want to have 4 columns across. Well, there is no one-shot deal for that, but I can simply take my 4 columns across and insert it at the bottom. And then maybe underneath that, I want to put 3 columns. So I go back to insert row, and I put 3 columns. Except I decided that, you know what, I want the 3 columns on top of the 2 columns. Well, Ultimatum makes this really, really simple. These are the features you're not going to get in most other themes. They make it very confusing. Ultimatum makes it really, really simple. So that's just a basic understanding of how I can set this up using this is my 2 column, which is now a different types of column. So let me just save that for a second. Let's close this window. Let's go back to preview changes, and you'll just get a different environment. You'll get a different look-see. Okay, so I can put all kinds of other stuff here in the bottom, and part of the reason you're not seeing anything because, quite frankly, there's nothing inside these boxes. Okay, now I did have the include page. Oh, I didn't select the page here. That's why that didn't come up. So I can put the, now this is probably going to hurt my browser, but I'm going to put the parallax window here just to share with you how that works. I'm going to save that. I'm going to come back up here to layout. I'm going to go to preview change. And it might choke my browser. there you go. Okay. Now, part of the reason that's acting kind of wonky like that is because of the row that I put it inside. It's not set up any differently, but I think that's pretty cool. Not to say you'd maybe want to do something like that, but you can. Okay, so I just want to share with you the power of working with Ultimatum in combination with Visual Composer. So in our next video, we're just going to clone this. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's just get rid of all this extra stuff. I think you got the concept here. And we'll start building this in the next video. So let's save the changes. So if I go back to preview changes, it has our basic preview with information that I can put over here on the right. So let's expand on this idea in our next video.